Hi, friends. Before we dive into this week's episode, I want to share with you about my signature course, She Sells Wholesale. I know so many of you guys ask questions about how do you get started with wholesaling because it can be complicated. I know because I have been there. And when I first started wholesaling my candles with my candle company, Heart Design Co., I failed miserably for several months, but I hit month 3 and I had my candles in over 120 retailers. So I am sharing with you my exact framework inside my signature course. She Sells Wholesale, and you can jump on the wait list at shesellswholesale.com. I only open up the course twice a year. So you want to make sure that you get on the wait list so you know when the course opens up, and it's opening soon. I will actually send you a free gift when you sign up on the wait list. So check it out at shesellswholesale.com. That's shesellswholesale.com.
When you're starting your business or when you're looking to grow your business, you're moving it beyond the hobby, beyond the side hustle into an actual sustainable money-making machine. You're told to market. You're told to just show up. How do I market? Just show up. The gurus, which I hate that term, they'll be, oh, you need to post this many times a day, and you need to dance, and you need to sing, and you need to hire a monkey to clap behind you, like, all this ridiculousness. And I remember being told repeatedly to just show up. So I created things like how-to posts and videos. I shared inspirational quotes, about me posts. I did all the things they said to do, and it got me absolutely nowhere. Well, that's not true. It took me straight to burnout town. Nobody likes that place.
Hi, friends. Welcome to She Sells Differently, the show for aspiring women entrepreneurs looking to overcome the fear of selling and grow thriving businesses from a place of authenticity and confidence. I'm Andee Hart, and it wasn't all that long ago that I was a sales executive for a Fortune 500 company. But I knew in my heart that I was called to use my gifts for something more, something different. That's exactly why I created the She Sells Differently podcast. Each episode is going to deliver you business strategies, tools, and mindset shifts to help set you and your brand apart from our culture's expectations. It's time to elevate your sales and build a profitable, sustainable business you're proud of, one built on integrity, grace, and humility. It's time to learn how to sell differently. Welcome to the She Sells Differently podcast. My name is Andee Hart, and I am on a mission to help you overcome your fear of selling, because selling is the lifeblood of your business and your work is worth sharing. And when you learn to sell with confidence and integrity, you stop spinning your wheels and you start making real progress. And friend, if you have ever felt like marketing your business just drains your soul and still doesn't get you noticed, this episode is for you. I am excited to have Shauna Van Mourik. And Shauna, did I pronounce your name correctly? I should have.
100%. You actually did beautifully.
Yes. So Shauna is on the podcast with me today. She is the host of the Marketing Rebels podcast, which I had the distinct pleasure and honor of being on a few weeks ago. And so Shauna is going to introduce herself in just a minute, but you're going to want to stay through the end of the episode because she is going to be sharing one daily mindset and strategy practice that she gives that helps shift everything and helps you show up online authentically. So we're going to share that at the end. But real quick, Shauna helps women coaches and therapists stop following outdated, soul-sucking marketing advice. You can see why I am having her on the She Sells Differently podcast and helps them truly value their work. And so I am so excited to have her on the podcast, and I'll let her finish introducing herself and, talk about how she got to where she is.
I would love to. And this is actually a really great point where you start from is this idea that, we're tired of that soul-sucking marketing advice that doesn't actually work for us. That we try and we try and we try and we try, thinking that that mentality of, stick with it, trust the process, but the process wasn't made for you. Darling, it wasn't made for you. It was made for an old man out in corporate somewhere, okay? Like, let's be real. We need a process that works for us because feast or famine cash flow, that sucks, right? Being bored with what you're doing, that's no way to run a business or live a life. We want to be excited. We want to feel abundant, not only in the fulfillment of doing the things that we're doing, whether it's marketing or serving your clients or relaxing on a beach, depends on what your preference is.
Amen.
Right? I mean, we want to feel that fulfillment in those aspects, but also, of course, in our pocketbook. We need to make sales. So we need to have a system that works for us, that's predictable, sustainable, and that will continue to be, if you desire it, scalable. These are important parts of your marketing strategy, the approach that you take within your business model to make sure that you can live the life of your dreams. In particular, for the way I approach my clients is we're getting you to scale beyond 6 figures in a way that makes you feel comfortably confident, in a way that doesn't make your shoulders touch your ears, right? And in a way that actually feels like home. We want you to feel just this peace of mind, trusting not the process, so to speak, but just knowing, trusting because you know that it's going to work.
Can we repeat that? I love the word feels like home.
So
Yeah.
you
I
need a
love
marketing,
that.
you need not only a marketing strategy that feels like home, but I'm a big advocate for lifestyle entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
It all needs to feel like home because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. So share the moment when you realized that traditional marketing advice. What I affectionately like to say, because I come from the sales side, right? And sales and marketing work hand in hand together. But that traditional bro marketing or bro sales advice wasn't working for you or your clients. Share that moment when you just realized, or maybe it wasn't a moment, but how did you know that this is just not for you?
Yeah, I think that that's a really great question. And I can actually reflect on a story that I tell I've got not a program, but a workshop. I have a workshop that I host and it's called Behind the Scenes of Just Show Up. And so I'd like to tell you a little tidbit of the story that comes with that workshop, because that's really the moment. So when you're starting your business or when you're looking to grow your business, you're moving it beyond the hobby, beyond the side hustle into an actual sustainable money making machine. You're told to market. You're told to just show up. How do I market? Just show up. The gurus, which I hate that term, they'll be, oh, you need to post this many times a day and you need to dance and you need to sing and you need to hire a monkey to clap behind you. Like, all this ridiculousness. And I remember being told repeatedly to just show up. So I created things like how-to posts and videos. I shared inspirational quotes about me posts. I did all the things they said to do, and it got me absolutely nowhere. Well, that's not true. It took me straight to Burnout Town. Nobody likes that place. It's not nice. So I said, this is BS. This is not worth it for me. Why would I keep doing the thing that's, number one, not working, and number two, in fact, detrimental to not only my business, but my physical, mental, and emotional well-being? Why would I do that? And in this space, I've noticed myself that a lot of people stop doing business. This is not a judgment that I'm making when I state this. It's simply a fact. A lot of people don't know that there's another way because all these gurus have preached, and we've seen it. This mentality of this is how marketing ought to be based on usually corporate influence, right? And that's simply not true. And so what I did in that circumstance was I let go of my schema around what marketing looks like. And I started doing research into what marketing could look like for me. When I started my business 10 years ago, I had a newborn. My daughter is 10 and a half years old at the time of this recording. I had a newborn. I needed to figure that out. Very shortly after that, I had back-to-back almost Irish twins. I had to figure that out. You think I can do TikToks and dances and record and post every day? No, there's more to marketing than what the gurus preach, right? There's more to it. And there's more to running a business than the very patriarchal constructs that we have in our minds about what being a business owner looks like, especially for women. And that's why I specialize in supporting women coaches and therapists, service-based entrepreneurs, because we experience life differently and our marketing strategies need to be built around that. Not a life built around the strategies. That's a very masculine way to do things. That's a very patriarchal, outdated way to do things. But as women, we need it the other way around. We have our life and that needs to be the center.
Yes,
absolutely. The rest of it needs to flow. So that's my kind of story of a burnout, trying to follow other people's advice, falling flat on my face, but taking it as a wake-up call rather than a hard stop.
Yeah. I think what's interesting here, and one of the biggest lessons that I have learned in my sales career that is really applicable here, is that I think one of the reasons that people give up, and when I say give up, they quit in entrepreneurship so often, is because what they're doing doesn't work. And so it's kind of that old quote, and I believe it's attributed to Albert Einstein. And I may have talked about this on your podcast, but if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, it's the definition of insanity. And we so often do that. We do the same things. And this could be from a marketing perspective or a sales perspective, where we are showing up in the same way, but we're expecting different results. And that's what leads to burnout. That's what leads to burnout. And so we end up quitting. And so this is what I think you are the perfect example of. You showed up differently. You showed up differently.
And that's the way to be for any entrepreneur. I don't remember where I read this or where I heard it from. It could have even just been from my mentor, but it's this idea that the entrepreneurs who make it, they have specific qualities, and definitely one of those qualities is resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not just the resilient nature to be able to get back up and keep at it if it's not working, but the resilient nature is within their mind, the growth mindset to know and to be reflective enough to say, that wasn't working. What else could I be doing?
How do I iterate that? How do I pivot? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but your podcast name is Marketing Rebels. So what does rebel marketing really mean to you?
What does rebel marketing really mean to me? Well, the sort of tagline to the show is breaking business barriers. And I would say that that's a pretty great launch point for what rebel marketing means. We think about these ways of doing business as very rigid. And my aspiration within Marketing Rebels is truly to break those barriers, to make them flexible, to understand that marketing is not a one-size-fits-all. In fact, I believe that you're never not marketing. And because of that, it cannot possibly be one-size-fits-all. It's in fact a complete impossibility in that case. So when I say you're never not marketing, what I mean is that every instance within which you're showing up is a case for marketing. When you wake up in the morning and you shuffle your sleepy feet into the bathroom and brush your teeth, and you got to brush your hair, look up at yourself, or maybe you don't, who knows? What are you saying to yourself? Whether internally or externally, what are you saying to yourself? Because you're actually marketing to yourself. In fact, it's a neuroscientific truth that is I'm going to say that it is a form of marketing. And I'm stretching that neuroscientific truth, but let me explain. Your brain believes what it sees. By the way, just to let you know, I'm not just talking nonsense. I have a background in psychology and neuroscience. That's actually my preliminary training. And then I went on to get trained in English rhetoric and professional writing. So this is coming from my experience, from my training, and neuroscience is a deep passion of mine. So brain believes what it sees. If it sees you doing or saying something on repeat, it will believe it to be true. That's why affirmations and mantras work. They're not just woo-woo, they're science. And so if you're waking up in the morning, shuffling into your bathroom, and you look up in the mirror and you're like, ugh, what a failure. Well, guess what? You've kind of written your story, but you can change your story. And so you can change the message, which is a really important part of marketing. You can change the message that you're delivering and then change the action that you take afterwards, that call to action. What are you calling to yourself? What call to action are you pushing on yourself? Now, we can carry that into how you're interacting with your family, with your community, while you're standing in the grocery store lineup with, I don't know, a tub of ice cream and a pack of chocolates. You can also, of course, attribute marketing. This is more of the big M marketing to business marketing. And that's when you're showing up on podcasts or creating content on social media, in your blogs, in your emails, on a commercial, on the radio, etc. You understand that level of big M marketing in your DMs and your outreach, that sort of thing. And then there's like what I like to call is like this global marketing. And this is how all of those things, starting from that micro moment of what you say to yourself in the morning, how all of these things radiate outward to create the reality that we live in, societally, culturally, globally. And this is where I personally like to talk about what I call is all the isms, but really it expands beyond that. So we can easily attribute how marketing impacts racism, feminism, consumerism, capitalism, the patriarchy, homophobia, et cetera, keep it going, right? That's what I mean when I talk about rebel marketing. We're not putting it into a box anymore. We're breaking free from that constrictive mold. And we're talking about what really matters and how can we use marketing at every level to flip the script, to make a positive impact on our world.
I love that. That was such an all-encompassing description. And I love that message because so often we put the term marketing in a very tightly, neat formed box. And in the same way that, as I mentioned earlier on when I was introducing the podcast episode, we are selling every day and we are marketing every day too. From the time, you mentioned this, from the time that we wake up, And I don't know if you have, I've actually have not read this book, but I have listened to, I subscribe to Blinkist. It's an app that you can get a summary of a book. And Mel Robbins has a book called The High Five Habit. And
I haven't read that one yet, but I do like Mel Robbins.
She talks about this exact concept that you just mentioned. The high five habit is literally you're waking up in the morning and you go high five yourself in the mirror. And it's exactly what you just talked about. Like that is setting yourself up for success. And I think at its core, it can almost sound cheesy, but it's not.
No, I love that. I love that you said that because cheesy, buzzwords, cliche, etc. The fact of the matter is they are those things for a reason. And that reason typically is because they matter and because they've been said and said and said. And people only repeat stories that matter. And they just become quote unquote cheesy or cliche or buzzwordy. And this is the same with like the word authentic. You can tell me that authentic is overdone or a buzzword, but you can't tell me that the root meaning of authentic isn't rudimentary to who we are, that it isn't extremely meaningful. It may be cliche, it may be cheesy, but it matters.
There's a reason. Yeah. Yes. And it's interesting because my very first leadership coach, we were talking about the power of mindset, exactly what you just outlined. And when we were first discussing this, I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know about this. I wasn't really bought in, but she convinced me, over the course of a couple of sessions, and it completely changed the course of my business. And so you can, people can call it cheesy, they can call it whatever, but there is power in that. And absolutely. So, yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. And this is actually a really key reason why I work in the space that I work is because a lot of times coaches, therapists, service providers, especially female owned, they typically lean towards more scientific or more what we call woo woo. And both are valid. And where I step in as a knowledgeable support system is that I can translate one to the other, or if necessary, combine them in a way that really appeals to each of their ideal audiences. So for someone like you who's like, that sounds silly, these affirmations or whatever, I can explain to you, maybe you have a more scientific, I can say to you, this is neuroscience. And then you might buy in faster, which means that we're going to close the deal faster. You understand the correlation here is that like you need to communicate with your people in a way that they're going to feel understood, seen, heard, and understood. So how your message lands matters, and being able to have the vocabulary and understanding to articulate that clearly is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is a great segue into our next question is talking about why entrepreneurs struggle with confidence around marketing and around sales. And so this is a topic that I talk about again and again. And to our previous, comments, why we talk about it again and again, because it's such a prevalent issue. So I want to ask you, why do you think so many entrepreneurs struggle with that? And I know you primarily work with service providers. I work with a lot of product makers. And regardless of what kind of entrepreneur you are, we all struggle with it. So what is your take on struggling with confidence?
I have this idea that is called comfortably confident. And it's more than an idea. It's a state of being. And at its root, it is held within something that I've been talking about for a while, but I didn't know how to articulate it the way I now know how to articulate it, which is a beautiful point of evolution. And you'll see where evolution takes form within this construct. So some of my core values reside in what I like to call the two icities. One is authenticity, which I've mentioned. The other is simplicity. These two are beautifully connected, very similarly to marketing and sales. They feed each other. It's a cycle, it's a loop. And when done properly, or I don't necessarily believe in right or wrong, but when done effectively, you're going to be able to see some really great results that lead you toward a state of being that is comfortably confident. So what does this look like? Well, the more you allow yourself, and it doesn't matter where you start, keep in mind, whether it's authentic or simplicity, the more you allow yourself to be authentic, the more permission you give to tap into who you really are. The simpler life gets, the simpler business decisions get, the simpler you're able to make your systems and processes. Great example of my simplicity, authenticity loop was when I decided that I really didn't want to think about what I was wearing during the day because clothes don't matter that much to me. I'd like to have a cycle of interchangeable clothes that just work. And that meant I think I might have one pair of jeans still, maybe, but most of my pants are leggings, and it's the same leggings. I feel like a cartoon character. You open my drawer and it's all the same clothes. But it's because those leggings go with everything. So I was able to simplify my life in order to step deeper into my more authentic self, which reduced choice overwhelm, mental clutter, etc. I was able to lean more fully into my authentic self in other areas, which fed the simplicity. I was able to say, I don't want to do that in my marketing anymore. I don't want to do that in my sales. I don't want to talk to those people. I don't want to hang out with them, because I was able to make those decisions because of that loop. And I was able to step more fully into my comfortable confidence, which means that regardless of whether you're loud, whether you're introverted or extroverted, whether you're outgoing, whether you're quiet, whether you're calm, whether you're composed, whether you're slow talking, or whether you talk as fast as I do with the way that I go on tangents with the passion and vigor and hand gestures that I tend to use, it doesn't matter, because you've found a place where you can be comfortably confident in who you are authentically. None of the clutter, none of the fluff that somebody else has told you to be. You just are. So this is less why people might struggle with it and more where we can go from there. Because we're always going to hear, you should, best practices, etc. And yeah, sure, there are some best practices, but that doesn't mean that they can't come parallel with your authentic self, your confident self. So really, it's just that idea of stripping away what other people think of you, getting should out of your system. One of my really great colleagues, she's amazing. Her name's Lindsay Harlkadatz. I will promote her to the end of my days. She told me, and it lives rent free in my brain, two things. First thing is hydrate, always hydrate. The second thing is stop shoulding all over yourself.
Both such great advice, because ironically, we were talking about like hydrating right before we started recording, and stop shoulding all over yourself. That's the best advice ever. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know that I answered your question in a direct way, but I hope that those who are joining us today for this conversation can take from this story of evolution and stepping fully into your authentic power. I hope that you can take from that at least a direction. Use it as a compass. Where do I want to go?
Yeah. It's interesting because I have said this before, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it until my dying breath, but some of the best salespeople, this is so countercultural, but some of the best salespeople that I've ever met in my 18, almost 19-year sales career are introverts. They are quiet. They are soft-spoken. They are introverts. And you would never know it when you just met them on the street, but they are the best salespeople I have ever met. Corporate executive sales, and I would hire them tomorrow.
Because they've been able to just be comfortable in who they are, allowing themselves to be that person. Now, I just caution you to keep in mind the fact that the quiet ones are not always the introverts.
True. That's another countercultural or,
That's another, and this is this idea of rebel marketing, right? Like nobody who has joined us here today would have guessed that I am an introvert. I know that, and that's okay. I am an introvert. I am what is called an outgoing introvert.
Yeah.
Introversion and extroversion is just about like how fast your energy depletes or recuperates when you're in a social situation. So for me, my energy I give it. I am constantly giving my energy, and I love to do that. It doesn't make me feel bad, but it does mean that there's a stop point that I stop and refuel on my own.
I'm the same way. And the people that I'm thinking of, because I know them, I know they're true introverts. Yeah. And it's interesting of just redefining what introvert and extrovert, what that truly looks like,
This goes back to our idea of being growth mindset, right? The idea of thinking about things differently and making sure that you understand that we don't live in a static black and white world. We live in a world of grays, so to speak. I mean, I would argue it's a rainbow, but that's okay. Of hues and beauty and in-betweens, and that's good.
Yeah.
You just need to figure out what works specifically for you while pulling from the things that have worked for others and deciding based on that authentic route that you've discovered in your comfortable confidence that, yes, that is for me. No, that's not.
It's not.
And
Yes.
there's always something that we can piece together that will work phenomenally with your way of being, with your lifestyle entrepreneurship, and with achieving your goals and feeling fulfilled in all that you do.
Yes. I love that. So you've spoken openly about being a late diagnosed ADHDer, which I love that I love that you're openly talking about this, because how many of my listeners are like raising their hand going, oh my gosh, that's me. And so I would love if you would share how this has shaped your business and your marketing lens.
I think that that's a beautiful question. And yes, I went through this journey of like, I kind of think, yeah, probably, maybe. No, I got to the point, I'm definitely undiagnosed ADHD. I did that for a few years too. And it was a whole journey. Then finally I asked my doctor, I was like, should I even bother? Like, I'm 30 some odd years old. Like, what should I do with this? And he was like, I mean, you can. Okay. I get diagnosed, and he's like, yeah, he essentially read the story of my life without knowing my actual story. And I was like, oh, hot damn, that is me. So if you're thinking the same way, like, yeah, this is my story. And if my tangents and my passion and the way my brain kind of goes big sometimes in these conversations sounds familiar, then yeah, I can see where you may be raising your hand and where you might have thought, Shauna, how did you not know sooner? And the cool thing about that is that it has always influenced what I do. So being late diagnosed was not the pivotal point. I just want to clarify that because I don't believe that you need to be diagnosed with anything in order to understand how who you are authentically can positively impact the way you're showing up and how you leverage those differentiators within your brand. Because I'm a branding and marketing expert. So leveraging those differences, those differentiators within your brand and within your marketing, that doesn't have to happen just because you've been stamped with a label. You don't need that. Okay. You can just tap into what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How can I leverage my strengths and minimize my weaknesses or delegate whatever I'm not so good at to somebody who has a different strength? So I just wanted to clarify that. But I think just the fact that I am the way I am, the fact that my brain functions the way it does. And I like to say that I color, garden, and think outside the box because it's true. I do all those things. And really that fact is a part of my differentiator. I'm able to connect the dots faster. I'm able to shed light on things that neurotypical people will forget about. I'm able to look at big pictures in a way that, not in a way that others can't, but perhaps in a different light, from a different angle. I have a little character. He's Eeyore, and I don't know if you've seen the little poster of him, but I've got a little character of him in my office. He's upside down. And and the theme here is to look at things from a new perspective, right? And I feel like that's one of the qualities that I bring to the table, and that my late diagnosis of ADHD has allowed me to identify as a part of that, right? In the ADHD world. So a part of that, actually, I also want to go on, and here you go. I'm totally tapping into, if you want to know your ADHD person really well, get them talking about something they're passionate about.
I love it.
This is it right now. Andee is amazing at doing this, asking the right questions to get people going. And so I guess I'm going to try to close this part of the conversation off by saying that some of the quote unquote symptoms of ADHD, and again, I have different feelings about the fact that it's a disability, but that's for another day. Some of the symptoms are kind of exacerbated experiences of every entrepreneur. Let me give you an example. RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. This is the idea that perhaps when I get off this call, my internal dialogue might tell me Andee hates me. I know it's not true. My brain knows it's not true, but there's this sensation, right? And that is a very kind of scary space to live in that you need strategies to kind of circumvent. As an entrepreneur, what is that called? Imposter syndrome. So if I can figure out how to navigate RSD, you can bet your butt I can help you to navigate imposter syndrome. The same is true with hyperfocus or distractibility that are key parts of ADHD. What does that look like? Shiny object. Who's been chasing that magic bullet? Who has been like, this is my goal. Oh, look, a bird. But really, what it really is that special magic bullet that caught your eye. I'm supposed to be making sales, but I kind of want to write a book. What's actually going to get you focused and doing the thing that you need to do? All of it bleeds together. All of the experience matters. So again, I'm not sure if I directly answered your question, but I hope people get a bigger picture of what does this mean for me, and for me as in all of you, to embrace your differences, whether it's ADHD or some other something, and to leverage your strengths and to understand how some of your challenges have probably fed into creating a strength in an area that you may not have known was possible.
Yes, I love that. Two things that I just want to comment on here, because any of my listeners that have listened for any length of time, they know that I am a person of faith. I'm a Christian. And so I want to mention one thing that you just said that I think is so beautiful, because you talked about, I don't like labeling it as a disability. And I have often said that I believe that the Lord uses things in our life and makes them beautiful gifts and strengths. And so, isn't it just like Him to take what the world perceives as a weakness or a disability and make it into one of our greatest strengths? And I think you just so beautifully articulated that, because you said, you better believe if I can navigate feeling rejected, then I can help you navigate imposter syndrome. And I can see things from a different perspective. And it's what the world sees as a weakness, the Lord has given you as one of your greatest strengths. And so I think that you articulated that so beautifully. And yes, I'm right there with you that it's not a disability. I think it's a beautiful thing. And the second thing I'll say is, you said, I color and garden outside the box. And friend, I think you color your own box. I think you just color a new box.
There is no box. Friend,
I love it.
Box. We live in a world of color.
You color your own box. And so when you said that, I was like, no, I think she creates her own box. And that's part of the beauty. That's part of the beauty. So.
I love that idea. And I maintain, there is no box. I think about things like, I don't know if anybody's read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, but she talks about Tabitha, the cheetah. And, her famous line is, "You're an effing cheetah," right? Like this idea that you were never meant to be caged. You were never meant to have a box. So like, I don't even want to say that I color my box, because that implies that I'm creating boundaries to my reality. No, I am just coloring whatever I come upon. And it's ever expansive, like the universe, like time. And you just keep growing and learning and allowing that to happen. Yeah. I think that's the crux of it. And that's part of being comfortably confident.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So as we kind of continue that a little bit, what's something counterintuitive that you teach your clients that surprises them, but it works?
Well, we've kind of talked about it already, actually. So it's kind of a bit of a shorter answer, which will surprise you all because I give long answers. It's kind of this idea that you don't have to do what they tell you to do. For example, one of my clients today said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't really." Oh, she actually said, "You're going to hate me for this." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I will never. I don't know if it'll work. I don't want to go. I don't want to get into my own way down the line, but I don't really want to post every single week. The minimum requirement, and we're working our way, we're building." And I said, "That's all right. Yeah, that's okay. The fact of the matter is, it's your business. You're the boss. There are best practices, of course. There are reasons why I say post at least once a week. There are reasons why, but that's okay. And I let that be, and we let that sit, because that's the message that I want to land. Then I add to that by saying, why don't you want to post once a week? Because usually there's more to it. And in this circumstances, I don't want to write. Writing isn't my strong suit. I struggle with ChatGPT. I'm trying to bring out my ideas, but then it never quite comes out right. This person is not English as a first language, so it can be a challenge." I said, "Okay, well, in the past, you mentioned really enjoying the idea of speaking." "Well, yeah, okay, but I don't want to speak just on my own. I'd rather have a conversation." "Okay, so what if we include podcast guesting as a part of your marketing strategy?" All of a sudden, the ears perk up. "Wait, what? Yes. Let's see." And keep in mind, this is like beginning phases of business development, okay? Because this is within my program. I have a marketing confidence 6-figure program that gets people from beginning phases to multiple 6 figures. So here we're kind of talking about the growth phases where we're like, oh, okay, we're creating here, but now, so part of my strategy that can actually kill 2 birds with 1 stone is I can reach out to podcast hosts and I can record with them and use the assets from that to supplement my marketing strategy. Absolutely. You can do it your way. And your way, when done with a guide or with enough insights personally, will work. You won't actually get into your way, right? So I think that's the biggest takeaway that people get, that they're like, wow, I can actually do it my way. Yes, please do it your way. I'm tired of seeing Sally, Joe, and Bob up there doing all their success things. I don't care about them. I want to see your way.
Be a marketing rebel. Be a marketing rebel.
Please, for the love of all things good, follow the guide if you can, but do it your way.
Yes. So I teased this at the beginning, but I would love if you would share just one daily tip or practice that you often share with your clients that would help instantly shift how someone shows up authentically online. If you could share that, what would it be?
So this is not going to surprise anyone because of how we've been introduced. All of us here have gotten to know Shauna and how I approach things. So this is not an easy answer. This is a layered answer. Okay, so bear with me. I very much subscribe to two principles that I've combined and elaborated on. And so I'm going to suggest a couple of books first to you all. The first is The One Thing by Gary Keller. The second is The 12-Week Year. This is by Brian P. Moran and Mike Lennington. I've combined those and then zhuzhed them up a little bit within the practice of what I do in all things branding, marketing, business, life. And the one thing invites you to ask, what is the one thing that you can do that would make everything else either easier or unnecessary? And you're asking me, what is the one thing we can do daily? It is essentially the root of the program, not the program, but the structure that I've created. And let me explain that as quickly as I can to you. So you will have your big vision goal, that thing that you want to accomplish that's more than yourself, your why. And in order to get there, you need to break that down into tactical, practical steps. The 12-week year, in conjunction with the one thing, allows you to set a goal, a SMART goal, that is in alignment with your big vision goal. And you're going to set that for 12 weeks, because the principle of the 12-week year is to accomplish more in 12 weeks than most people do in 12 months. So you set that goal. You then break that goal down into monthly milestones. You then break that down into weekly tactics. Now, I go a step further and I break that down into daily tasks. And I don't mean a list of like 15 things that you need to do, because that is completely unreasonable. All of these should be in accordance with the one thing, because you're looking to make them make everything else either easier or unnecessary. So you want to consistently be weeding out the things that are going to hinder your progress. So knowing that and understanding, and please reach out to me all. Please reach out to me if you're looking for that framework and if you're curious as to how this works out in the grand picture, and then also how I personally incorporate accountability into it, because that's a huge part of it. Please reach out. I'm not going to get into that today because we're pressed for time, but that one thing every day in relation to that is to reflect, to realign, and to recommit every day. Reflect on the tasks of your day. I do 2 or 3 tasks a day. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but think about yourself and how well you break down your tasks and how often you'll put down a task that is actually 6 tasks in one. So 2 to 3 tasks a day. Reflect on what did well. Realign with your goals and what you're doing where are you going? Make sure that your compass and your map is aligned, and then recommit. And what that means is think about your tomorrow so that you're ready for the next day. And you're always in connection and in alignment with your tasks, are in alignment with your tactics, are in alignment with your milestones, are in alignment with your goals, are in alignment with your vision. So I know that you asked me for one thing, but it's a whole thing that one thing impacts.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love it. That was worth waiting for, though. I love it. Yes. Where can my listeners find you online? And then I know that you had something that you wanted to share too, if they want to learn more from you.
Absolutely. I love that. So I have this thing called the Brand Visibility Vault. It's a 6-week blueprint that allows you to create 6 weeks of repurposable content that's aligned with your brand. 6 weeks, 6 months, pardon me, 6 months of repurposable content for your brand. And you can literally repeat it. And now these aren't just prompts like, what did you have for dinner? Because that's ridiculous. That's not going to work for everybody unless you're like a nutritionist, okay? These are prompts that are directly aligned with what you do. They invite you to reflect and then create based from that place. And then they're repurposable because after 6 months, somebody forgot what you posted last January. So you might as well share it again, like truly. And you will make tweaks and changes because you're an ever evolving human being, but you have the fundamentals. Okay. So I'll leave that there with you. The link's in the show notes. You absolutely want to get your hands on that. That is the Brand Visibility Vault. If you want to talk further, if you want to learn more about how to leverage the vault, if you want to learn more about accountability, goal setting, branding, marketing, or if you just want to chat, I'm always up for a chat. Listen, talk to me about something philosophical and we will dive deep. Reach out to me. You can find me at shaunalee.com, SHAUNALEIGH.com. All of my links are there. I'm on most of the platforms. So reach out. I don't bite. Well, at least not hard.
Yes. And Shauna is so fun. Love it. You will have a blast. So I will put all of those links in the show notes if you would like to get in touch with Shauna and learn more. And thank you so much for joining us on the She Sells Differently podcast. You are such a delight, and we love learning from you.
Thank you, Andee. You're wonderful.
Yes. And so I'll also link my episode that I was on Marketing Rebels. You can take a listen to that and to Shauna's podcast as well. And I will invite you to go listen, rate, subscribe, and review both of our podcasts. We'll put the links, like I said, in the show notes. And so until next Wednesday, we'll have another episode for you of the She Sells Differently podcast. And until next Wednesday, we're cheering you on. Have a good one. All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of She Sells Differently. Friends, it would be a huge blessing to me if you would take 2 seconds to rate and subscribe to my podcast. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Until then, I'm cheering you on in your entrepreneurial journey. See you next time.